But that was like, I was just trying to look up when you've been like, saying so about the climate change and about like, as a scientist. But there was like, an interesting speech by Margaret Thatcher almost 30 years ago at the United
Yes.
Nations General Assembly. And she was she was one of the first major leader of the major country who made a speech about the climate change. And she said, "We are not the lords, we are the Lord's creators. The trustees of this planet, charged today with the preserving life itself, preserving life with all its mystery and with all its wonders.
Yes.
And we are all equal with a task to fulfill our mission." I mean,
Yes.
30 years ago, and even more than that, a leader of a major country made this statement. Why we are still stuck with discussing about climate change? Why major countries are leaving a Paris Accord? And why we are still discussing how it's important for us?
I think only one country has left the Paris Agreement, right? And I think it's only the United States that has
But
moved
it's
out
the
of the
most
Paris
important
Agreement.
country.
Of course, of course. And again, I think the reason why we've had success in Paris in 2015 was because every country in the world has recognized the need to bring in what has been described then as a voluntary contribution. They have all agreed they have to meet the target, for example, for renewable energy. They have looked at many targets of reducing emission. And when politics come into the picture, this is when we've seen that some countries have decided to move out of the Paris Agreement. I think this is very dangerous. And if I'm going to be a bit more personal, I would say it's irresponsible, because we have to agree that the science is there. The scientists have been speaking through all the IPCC's report. They have all been saying the same thing, that the scenarios have been elaborated, that if you go beyond the 1.5, 2 degrees, 2.5 degrees, what is the state of the world is going to be like. So having this pandemic, I think to some extent has brought us to a stop to tell us that, we need to do something about it. It can't go on. It is no longer sustainable. The way we have been polluting our seas, the amount of plastics we pour into the oceans every day is just not acceptable. So what has been said 30 years ago still resonates today, because the problem has still stayed the same. But there are countries I see they are now moving in that direction. They are addressing some of the issues, but unfortunately we are not addressing it fast enough. So we need to go back to, we need to change the way we need to change our lifestyle, reduce the amount of consumers of consuming plastic, for example, go renewable. And as I said, and I've said it before and I will say it again, there is only one planet. There is no planet B. So let us start to change the way we consume. Let us look at a circular economy. Let us see how we can draw, opportunities in all these disasters, like plastics, fossil fuel, and all the rest of it. We need to be able to change that, and we have the capacity to do it. I'm sure. In terms of the talent of our people, we can do it. But we need to have the leadership. We need to have the political will. Okay, people will say, who will distill the political will? But we need to do things. And it starts also at individual level. This is something that we tend to forget. We tend to say government, but I think individually, each citizen, we have the responsibility to change the way we do things.
By the way, last time, like Helen Clark said, one very interesting thing that these times is a time when former leaders should be more involved and raise their voices, because they are out of politics and they have to be more involved with the society. And as a last question, how do you see the role of international organizations like NGOs and think tanks after pandemic situation? Because, all the institutions are holding the meetings and so on, and suddenly everything has been disappeared and there is no communications and everything is by online system. how it's going to affect their work and how they are going to be more efficient?
Well, there's two things here. I think what you're saying is that we're going to be more working online. The whole world is going to go digital. I think, yes, it's one good thing that if we capitalize on this technology for, digitization of meetings and everything else, because that already will reduce the pollution in the air. Of course, there will be, one industry that's likely to collapse. That's the airline industry and associated industries alongside. But for every challenge, I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities. Now, you asked a question about NGOs, about institutions, about people like myself making the case. We can keep on advocating, but at the end of the day, we need a strong leadership to effect the changes at the level of many institutions. So how are we going to develop the carrot and the stick methodology? I don't know. But rest assured that people like myself will keep on carrying the voice and talk about these things more and more. And as Helen has said, we are free from all the ties of politics, so we can be more vocal and definitely do a lot of sensitization, do a lot of making all these messages go across. But at the end of the day, we still need leaders to lead, and we need decisions to be taken, decisions that have to be implemented as a matter of urgency.
Thank you so much, Madam President, for your time. It was so nice
Thank you so much,
talk to you.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
Pleasure.